Hey everyone, it's Kyle from Cool Collectibles, back again for another review. This time it's the Asmus Toys Gimli from their Lord of the Rings series. And this has been a long time coming, and I have to say I think Asmus Toys is probably the first and only collectible company that has done a complete Fellowship of the Ring, either in 1/6 scale or I think even in statue form. I don't think Sideshow or anyone else has done the full complete Fellowship. It's been probably 3 or 4 years in the making for Asmus, I guess for me, I'm definitely glad that they were committed enough to complete the core cast, and I think this has obviously been a labour of love for them, and they have done an absolutely fantastic job. There's probably only 1 or 2 minor nitpicks that I'll go through shortly, but overall I think this is an outstanding figure. And definitely the best of their Lord of the Rings series. And as you can see, the box art is their usual style in this series, so not too much to write home about there, but the front cover art there is actually quite nice. But I'll get that out of the way and get straight into the accessories. Hold on. Alright, starting off the accessories, it does come with the standard Lord of the Rings base, but because he's so short and his legs are so short, this part here that you normally put in there as the crotch grabber and so on is pretty pointless, because his actual crotch is too low, and you can't actually get him to stand on this at all. So I'll probably just have him standing on the base like this, and with the ankle articulation and the boots and so on, it is pretty stable, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem sitting on that. Comes with the Elven Cloak, which is the same sort of material as the others, and is nicely cut, and I think they might have mentioned that they have a new brooch here, and it is pointing in that sort of correct direction this time, but unfortunately I think with when you put it on him with all of his beards and so on, you can't actually see it. It is a nice finish there, and is definitely an improvement over their previous brooches, so that's really nicely done. Comes with his helmet, and you just need to, I haven't actually tried strapping it on yet, but you just put it over his head and then can tie the strap through underneath there. There seems to be almost like a magnet effect on this side of this metal buckle here, but other than that, it looks very nice with that leather there, or fake leather, but the detailing in the helmet itself is pretty damn amazing. I love the intricacy in it, the weathering in it. It just looks really nice. It is softish plastic. You can get a bit of bend to it, but I wouldn't go trying to bend that too much. And it does sit fairly nicely from the photos that I've seen. But I will try and put that on a bit later. The hands, he comes with some relaxed palms straight out of the box, but of course he also has his axe holding hands and the closed fists. I'll definitely have him holding the axes, or at least a couple of them, and strapping the rest of them on his body somewhere. And the detailing, not too bad. Would have been a little nicer with a bit more of that sort of leather look, but overall the sculpting and the paint application is very nice, and I would definitely recommend dipping these in some hot water to just soften that plastic before you put them on. But of course I think the best accessories by far are the 5 axes, if I can actually hold them all, that they've included, and they are die-cast metal. The design and detail in these is absolutely sensational. Love the intricate detailing in all the axes. I love how the metal here has that sort of brushed, weathered look to it, and this whole center section here. I think this is the axe that he picked up in the Mines of Moria, I think, and the detail in here is just amazing. So you know, people saying that Hot Toys can't do it on their weapons, like Wonder Woman's sword, for example, or something like that, where there's a lot of detail. Well, Asmus has essentially proven them wrong, that it is possible if they put their minds to it, and the detailing in this is sensational. So he's got this one. He's got the long, almost like the walking stick that he has. And again, that detailing and the weathering is just amazing. Even the hilt here has the nice sort of weathered look to it, and the panel detail there, and the ending there on the knob. And similarly for his two throwing axes, if I can actually get them to focus. These ones are apparently meant to go around his belt or through a couple of loops in his belt. I'm not quite sure how they're going to fit in there, but I'll go through that in a second. And again, the design of these is amazing. They really do look very accurate to the movie stills and the movie props that I looked up on Google just before. And then he's got the slightly longer axe here. And again, just the detail that they've added. Not sure how they did it. Looks like there's a sort of a seam line in there, but it's just beautifully done. So I think they've really stepped it up a notch on the accessories for Gimli. The other swords and so on, I think for Boromir and Gandalf and Aragorn are also metal, and I think their most recent expansion set for Frodo also included a metal sting, so they really are taking these accessories to the next level. So I think that's pretty much covers all the accessories, so I'll get straight into the figure. Hold on. Alright, and here he is. Before I get into the obvious key feature of this particular figure in the rooted hair and beards and so on, I'll just pan down and give you a look at the costume. And this is right up there with their best costuming. I mean, they're probably not the best in facial head sculpts or paint application, but their costuming has always been outstanding in its choice of texture, materials, and tailoring. And this one here with all the different layers, they've done another sensational job. So I'll just go through. It does have this outer sort of tunic or belt structure that sort of comes down, and it's all sort of integrated together, this section. So there's the soft sort of, not so much suede, but a nice sort of soft material there with this patterning that comes across the top here as well. And then that's all sort of strapped together by this harness, which integrates with the belt. I'm not sure, it all seems quite tight, so I'm not sure how likely that's going to either tear or split over time. It's not quite symmetrical either, so it's sort of pulling the blanket here to the right here, but that's going to be covered by the cloak, so I'm not too concerned about that. But the detailing is really, really nice. So I'm just a bit worried about these sections here and whether or not that's going to split over time. Hopefully it doesn't look like that's split at all, but that's something just to be aware of over time. The arms here, one of the features that they did write about on their Facebook page to take the collectors through the production journey was this chainmail. And again, it's one whole integrated piece, so you can sort of get a feel for what that patterning looks like, and it does look really nice, but I do have some concerns about the material. It's not a very pliable material, particularly on the top here where it's quite rough, and it's almost, I have the same concerns about this as I do with the Sideshow Zuckuss jacket. That one felt like sandpaper, so it's a lot rougher than this, and this one's got this sort of almost like a rubberized backing to it. But I think over time, as you bend, particularly around the elbows, I do have some concerns that it might start cracking along those bends, so I'd be a bit careful there. And there are some areas where you can see the costume sort of be glued together, and whether or not that starts splitting over time as well. So just be aware of that when you're posing it up, and where you have the folds and creases. But they do have the sort of shoulder armor here, or the pauldron, and again it's so nicely detailed. It's got that nice bronze color to it. The gauntlets on the forearms here, you do need to push these ones out of the way just to sort of get access to his wrists and his hands there, but again really nicely detailed and painted with all the different patterning and weathering. He's also got some suede pants, like almost MC Hammer pants there. which do look quite accurate to the movie stills. It goes all the way around, and they are tucked into these boots, but I wouldn't recommend sort of pulling them out or anything like that. They seem to be stuck in there pretty well, and the way it sort of hangs around all this bagginess actually looks quite realistic and accurate to the movie. And then the boots themselves, it is a two-piece boot, so you can sort of see if I lift this other section up, there is an internal section there to cover that, which is quite nice. And the whole way that sort of integrates in its look to allow for the ankle articulation is really nicely done. I think they really gave some thought into that. They could have done it as one piece, which really would have hindered the articulation. There is a bit of ankle rocking in there, not too much, but just enough to sort of give it that bit of realism as well. And there is the tilt action as well. So I think once you tilt it down, you can sort of adjust this top bit to cover any sort of gappage there, which I think is a really nice way to design it. So they've done that really well, and of course just the patterning and the detailing all the way through. They've pretty much covered all the bases on this figure. I guess I was mentioning before that one of the concerns was this pouch area here, where you are meant to be able to get all of his or two of his throwing axes in there. Now I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen. The hole at the back there is slightly bigger, and it's whether or not I can slide this one in from the front and slightly twist it. I think it was this one that he had in the movie facing forward, and probably this one facing the other way, but I will have to try and see if I can dip just this bit in some hot water just to soften it up, and see how I go. But the articulation as well, before I get onto the head sculpt, the arms, as you can see, can go out so far. The legs splay out only about that far. I think I don't want to push it too far, but you can get it up as well. This whole suit sort of does restrict the articulation a little bit, and he's got the rotation there, and the knees are on some pretty heavy ratchets there, so you can't get that bending enough to have him do some of the action poses as well. So not too bad there. And I guess the other area of concern, you can rotate the shoulders quite nicely and get them up. I'm having a bit of trouble getting it a bit further up than that without trying to break the damn thing. Let's see if this side is a bit easier. So there seems to be a bit of restriction in trying to move it too far forward. The elbows seem to bend okay, apart from when it starts creasing that chainmail, which is what I was concerned about. So I'm not sure if that's going to cause the silver part here to start flaking away or cracking, so I'm just be careful there. And the torso feels a little bit restricted as well, so I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to get him into some really deep action poses. I have seen some of the bloggers and recent pictures of people getting him into some really decent poses. So the flexibility is there, just go slow and be careful where you put your fingers. But of course, the highlight of this figure is the head sculpt and the rooted hair. I think the likeness is there. The realism in the skin texture is not quite as good as Hot Toys, but it's probably one of their best in the series. I think with Boromir and Legolas and so on, they did have quite a bit of a sort of a pale complexion. With Gimli here, it does look very, very nice, and I do like the glassiness in his eyes. It probably doesn't have that sort of rugged appearance that he had in the prototype photos, where there was a lot of paint detail on dirt and so on. But I think overall, for a production piece, they've done very well. It does have the different slight redness in the cheeks and the nose and so on to give it that added realism. And of course, I do love the way they've done the beard. I do like the way that right along the edge of the seam there, they've sculpted in the edge of that hair, so you can sort of see that it's not just a straight line. And the way it integrates into the beard is beautifully done. And you know, they did mention that they didn't want to do Legolas as rooted hair because they couldn't get the braids. Well, they've done the braids here on both sides that integrate into the longer braids on the side. So it's all stuck together, or braided together at least. So if they can do this for Gimli's beard, hopefully they reconsider and put out an expansion pack for Legolas with rooted hair, because the way they've done the moustache there into the braiding and along the beard is just sensational. And I love the way they've done the back of the head as well. It's not so tight that you're concerned about the pull in the hair, or that it's going to come loose with various strands. All the strands get tied back nicely into this section at the bottom here. So unlike my Kung Fu Master, for example, where the preferred look was like a really tight bun or a really tight pull, this one has a bit of play, which I think is nice and fairly accurate to the way he looked in the movie. So at least you can sort of style it a little bit how you will. And he was always a bit of a messy dwarf as well. And of course then for the most part the whole top part of his head would be covered by the helmet anyway. But this whole center section of the beard here, the braids, it's just beautifully done. So I'm glad they took the collectors on the journey on their Facebook page with you know, behind the scenes production photos on how they were trying different techniques to try and perfect it, and the way they've come up with this particular version is outstanding. So definitely cannot complain about the way they've done the head sculpt, and he does look amazing standing at attention on the stand. So what I might do is I'm going to just stop the review for now. I think I'll post up another review once I've set it all up and posed up with the rest of the fellowship. So hopefully you can click that like and subscribe button and stay tuned for the next video where I'll show you the whole gang together. But overall, as I was saying before, this is an absolutely fantastic set by Asmus Toys with all the accessories. And the quality of the accessories are more to mind, and the figure itself, they've done an absolutely sensational job. So hats off to them. Hopefully they complete that announcement of the revised Frodo paint application for the head sculpt and send that out shortly, and that would pretty much be my definitive Fellowship of the Ring collection. So hopefully you can stick around for the next video where I show everyone together. But until then, thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers. Bye.